Hi everyone. I'm so grateful to be together for our percussion discussion. Thanks for joining in. Here's the definition of percussion. Musical instruments played by striking with the hand or with a handheld stick or beater or by shaking. The striking of one solid object with or against another with some degree of force to produce sound. I gravitated towards percussion after my second soulmate Ben died holding my hand. I literally used the hand that held Ben's to play the djembe drum and to pick up a practice of percussion. It reminded me of the heartbeat and provided a way to connect with music in a hands-on manner. I learned the djembe from Mamadou Diop, a Senegalese performing drummer living in the United States. I found drumming to be incredibly healing and upbeat. It opened up a whole new world to me. I then researched and ordered lots of other percussion instruments. I chose ones that were inexpensive, easy to carry, and had online tutorials. Then I got creative to find ways to play the same instruments in different modes, and several instruments simultaneously. It brought me such joy and continues to do so. The djembe is a goblet-shaped drum traditionally carved from a single piece of African hardwood and topped with an animal skin as a drumhead. It is said to have been invented in the 12th century by the Mandinka tribe in what is now Mali in West Africa. It has been played by West Africans for generations, forming an integral part of ritualistic life in Mali, Guinea, Senegal, and other neighboring West African countries. It's been part of West African spiritual life for many generations. It was used for storytelling to pass on important historical, religious, and cultural information to future generations. The djembe is inextricably linked with singing and dancing as well. The djembe is one of the most versatile and widespread percussion instruments on the planet. Its huge popularity is drawn from the fact that it can create a wide range of pitches, namely the bass, low, tone, medium, and slap, high. These sounds are created by striking different areas of the djembe skin with the hands. Bass, tone, slap. I also like to use a variety of strikers to produce distinctive sounds, such as wire brushes, rubber mallets, fabric mallets, plastic mallets, timpani drumsticks, and snare drumsticks. Bongo drums consist of a pair of small, open-bottom drums of different sizes. Their use was first documented in Cuba during the 19th century, where they were employed in popular music styles and Latin American dance bands. I play them with my hands or with various mallets or sticks, each offering a unique sound. Sometimes I also add a steel jingle tap pad that accompanies as an additional drumhead. And I put all these with the djembe to create my own little drum kit, which I'm going to play with Utsu Etsu. Okay, Speaking of steel jingles, let's talk tambourines. They're generally handheld instruments with metal discs called jingles inserted into the rim. Though an ancient instrument, its structure has remained virtually unchanged. Tambourines were played in ancient Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome, especially in religious contexts, and have long been prominent in Middle Eastern folk and religious use. Crusaders took them to Europe in the 13th century. In the Middle Ages, traveling musicians and entertainers used them. In the 19th century, the tambourine became a military band instrument, appearing later in the orchestra. The tambourine is mentioned in the Old Testament as an instrument of celebration, as when Miriam took a tambourine in her hand and all the women followed her with tambourines and dancing. I have a regular handheld tambourine, as well as my little foot tambourine that I can tap with my foot while I play other instruments with my hands, and I snuck it in for Utsu Etsu. I also have this special Peruvian instrument with jingles that was featured in Arizona's Musical Instrument Museum. It fits Shalom Aleichem perfectly. Then we have zils, or finger cymbals. Ancient Greeks played finger cymbals, and in Turkey, dancers have been playing them since the 15th century. Before the invention of elastic, zils were tied onto the fingers with leather strips. Modern cymbalists use elastic to secure the zils, one to the thumb and one to the middle finger. Zils are frequently used in Ottoman military bands and occasionally in Western orchestral musical performances to achieve a Middle Eastern sound. They're most popular with belly dancing. While our minds are on dancing, the güiro is an instrument that's been used in folk and dance music in Puerto Rico and Cuba for centuries. It then became popular in broader Latin musical genres such as salsa and conga. The güiro was a long, hollow gourd with ridges that produced sound when a stick, called a pua, is scraped along the sides of the instrument. It is believed to have originated in Puerto Rico with the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean in the 16th century. As Latin percussion became popular across the world during the 19th and 20th centuries, the güiro became a common addition to drum kits and international percussion ensembles. Maracas are believed to be inventions of the native Taino Indians of Puerto Rico. They were originally made from the fruit of the higuera tree, which is round in shape. After taking out the pulp, small pebbles were introduced into it. Then a handle was fitted to the dry fruit shell. They're shaken softly or vigorously to produce sound. Maracas are now often made of new materials such as plastic, but are used in the same way to fulfill a musical role in Latin bands. I enjoy passing out little colorful plastic maracas when we lead services. Claves are a pair of cylindrical hardwood sticks about 8 inches long and 1 inch in diameter. When struck together, they produce a sharp, penetrating sound. Claves were originally used in Afro-Cuban folk music and are among the instruments that maintain various fixed rhythmic patterns in Latin American dance bands. They are modern examples of rhythm sticks, one of the most ancient musical instruments, used in many cultures since ancient times, in ritual, in accompanying work and in calming attention, as well as for musical rhythm. Claves originated in Cuba when Spanish shipbuilders discovered that Cuban hardwood culled from tropical forests there was superior to Spanish wood. African slaves were sent to Cuba to provide shipwright labor. One day, one of them picked up 2 discarded hardwood pegs and struck them together. The sound allowed them to perpetuate rhythms from Africa. Claves go wonderfully with the shamru. I use them on my djembe and then strike them after the word Shabbat. Lots of folks clap along with the claves. The kabasa is constructed with loops of metal beads loosely wrapped around a serrated metal cylinder. The cylinder is fixed to a long, narrow wooden or plastic handle. It's played by turning the instrument with one hand while resting the beads in the palm of the other. The original kabasa was of African origin and constructed from dried gourds. The metal kabasa was created by Martin Cohen, founder of the company Latin Percussion, in 1964 following his difficulty in obtaining instruments for his own use during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He and his company manufactured his own instruments and found a ready market. In addition to use in Latin music, the kabasa is frequently used in music therapy to build neurological connections. The kabasa goes nicely with Bowie Kala. Spoons are played by hitting one spoon against the other. There have been spoon players since before written history. Prehistoric rock drawings and pottery depict dancing figures with curved blades in their hands. Many ancient cultures play spoons and a variation called rattlebones, including Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans. They played spoons and bones in battle marches. During the Crusades, when armies were marching, the clicking of bones and spoons meant to their enemy that it was time to prepare for battle. Spoons play a part in many different cultures today. In America, spoons are associated with minstrels, jug bands, and folk music. Sleigh bells produce a distinctive jingle sound. Centuries ago, sleigh bells were fastened to horses to signal the approach of someone important or to warn pedestrians of an approaching vehicle. The bells are made from sheet metal, bent into a spherical shape with a small ball bearing placed inside. These bells were used as far back as ancient times. In Babylonia, Assyria, and Egypt, they were commonly suspended from the trappings of horses, mules, and camels. Sleigh bells were one of the first instruments played in space. In 1965, Gemini 6 astronauts played jingle bells for mission control as a holiday joke. The triangle is a bar of metal, usually steel, bent into a triangle shape with one corner left open to keep the instrument from having a specific pitch and to allow it to generate ethereal scintillating overtones instead. It is suspended by a gut or nylon loop and struck with a steel rod. The first mention of a triangle was in a 10th century manuscript. It was referred to in King Wenceslaus' Bible and used for religious ceremonies in medieval churches. In the Renaissance, with the development of opera, the triangle became widely used and remains popular in Western classical music. Triangles were basic to Turkish music in 18th century Europe as a device for local color. In the 19th century, they began to be used purely for their sound. A single stroke can clearly penetrate the full force of an orchestra. When we had a congregational chorus at Temple Emmanuel, Mort, our director at the time, composed a hymn for us to perform. We wore robes and stood on the bimah. He asked me to play one stroke of the triangle at one specific time during the piece. I was so anxious that when I struck the triangle, a nervous laugh came out with it. Now I like playing the triangle throughout the Misha Berach song. The earliest chimes were Chinese stone chimes, sets of L-shaped marble slabs suspended in wooden frames and struck by mallets. These instruments were used as early as the Shang dynasty in 1600 BCE. Later, wind chimes were used in neighboring cultures, such as those of Korea, India, and Japan. Buddhists attached them by the thousands to eaves of temples, causing overwhelming volume during breezy moments. I have both a set of wind chimes and a single-tone chime, which I love to utilize to accompany Debbie Friedman's You Shall Love. Shakers have been around since pre-recorded history. It is speculated that the earliest shakers were made in Africa using hollow gourds with dried seeds inside. Shakers have been used by primitive tribes around the world. Native Americans use shakers in practically all of their important ceremonies. Native Hawaiians use shakers in their storytelling dance form called the hula. Over centuries, shakers have led to the development of new types of music, including jazz and blues. With the introduction of man-made materials, shakers have since been made from tin cans, small glass containers, wooden or paper boxes, and plastic. shakers are used to produce rhythmic patterns with an ensemble of other instruments, particularly drums. I have several. Some eggs, a double shaker that I strap to my arm while I play the djembe for the tefillah, and a tube shaker that gives sound effects of the sand in the sea and the rush of the waters for Eli Eli. I also have a thunder tube that makes the sound of thunder when shaken. It enhances Psalm 93, Majestic on High. During the pandemic, I got myself a roll-up electronic drum kit. I play it out on my deck. I think the neighbors get a kick out of it. Here's a sampling. I treasured doing the research for our percussion discussion. It was exceedingly fascinating. I learned that these instruments span almost all of human history, and their reach extends globally. May the beat be with us.